Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel. Hope you all are doing well. And we're at the point of the season where some teams are in intense playoff battles down the stretch, but there has also been an increased look at this upcoming draft for those teams at the bottom looking towards the future. And in the past few years, a quiet but noticeable shift has happened in the prospects landscape, and that is that the QMJHL has taken a pretty clear step back. The scoring is out of control, the structure just isn't there the way it used to be, and compared to the rest of the CHL, it's fallen pretty clearly behind, and at this point, it's starting to raise real questions about how credible it is as a developmental league. So in this video, I'm going to break down just how bad things have gotten in the Q and why it might be losing its place as one of the top leagues in junior hockey. So let's get right into it. This shift has been happening for a few seasons now, but it's really gotten to a crazy point this year that it has produced some pretty funny stats that really pop off the page. One weird one is that due to its very strange playoff format where only 2 teams miss the playoffs, so Gatineau is a team with 20 wins in 62 games and a minus 69 goal differential as of day of recording, but they still clinched the playoffs weeks ago. Chicoutimi scored at a rate of over 5 goals per game this season and still isn't in first place in the Q. Rimouski is on a 24-game losing streak right now, with 18 of those games being losses by 4 goals or more. Only 12 goalies have save percentages above 900 right now, compared to 14 in the OHL and 16 in the WHL. Now, the Q still does pretty good for attendance, and it's definitely fun to watch some barn burners once in a while, and the Q has always played a different style of hockey than its other CHL counterparts, but the high scoring has really gone to another level this year. But the reason this crazy style of hockey is hurting the Q's credibility is that it is losing viability as a developmental league. If you were a manager trying to take your hotshot offensive prospect and develop him into a well-rounded, responsible, team-oriented player that's prepared to take the step to the next level, would you choose to send him to the Q? Or if you drafted him, would you choose to keep him there? Teams are definitely shying away from drafting from there. We'll get into it in a bit, but the extremely inflated offensive stats, or deflated if you happen to play on one of those truly terrible teams, make it very hard to evaluate players. It's extremely easy to develop bad habits when you're playing in these such unstructured games, and players often struggle to adapt to the next level where it's a lot more systematic, it's a lot more team-oriented. Goalie performances are a complete crapshoot because they're so influenced by the team, and it's just such a chaotic and volatile environment to develop your game as a goaltender. As a result of all of this, if you were a manager, you would be much more likely to try and transfer your prospects from the Q to the college game or get them over to the AHL as soon as possible, and that is the route that NHL GMs are taking, and this will get even more extreme with the expected lift of the rule that 19-year-old CHLers can't play in the AHL, as managers will be even more keen to get the prospects they drafted out of the Q into other developmental leagues. We've seen this with the OHL and WHL as well, as most managers are transferring their prospects to the college game, but this is hitting the Q even harder as it's fallen behind in terms of style of hockey for sure in compared to a program, but also just general quality of hockey. As recently as 2023, the Q had won the last 4 Memorial Cups, taking into account the 2020 and 2021 were not awarded due to pandemic. So the Q is on top of their game, but in the 2 Memorial Cups since then, the representatives from the QMJHL have not won any games. And maybe the most notable decline in Quebec Major Junior Hockey can be noticed at the draft, like I said. In this last draft, Caleb Desnoyers was selected at 4th overall, Justin Carbonneau was also selected within the top 20, and in total, there was 19 total players drafted from the QMJHL. Although this is way behind in terms of high-end talent and overall draft picks compared to the WHL and OHL, this is actually still the best draft the Q has had in years. The Q hadn't had a player selected in the first round since 2022, and they're not really producing really good talents found outside the first round either. Looking at all of the rookies from this decade, the only ones that were drafted or developed in the QMJHL that have scored more than 20 points as a rookie in the NHL are as follows: Zach Bolduc, Maverick Bourque, Hendrix Lapierre, P.O. Joseph, Raphael Harvey-Pinard, Dawson Mercer, Alex Carrier, and Alexis Lafreniere. Really not a flattering list at all. And at this point, it's less of a talent dry spell for the Q, and it's more turning into a very serious trend for the league's future. They are falling behind as a drafting and developing league, and that is what they were known for. They have had less representation at the draft in terms of high-end talent and the later rounds, and have developed basically zero true NHL stars, while the WHL and OHL are still going strong. Now, to be fair, it's always been the identity of the QMJHL that they are a high-flying offensive league. Not always a bad thing, and that's what has made them so exciting and different to watch in the past, and why it's produced some really talented offensive players. But the problem now is that it has just gone too far in that direction. When the scoring gets this inflated, when the structure starts to disappear, and when the games feel more chaotic than competitive, it stops being an advantage and starts becoming a real concern. Because at this point, skill and high flash offense is the only thing that matters, and it seems like they're really ignoring key parts of the game that actually translate to the NHL. And that doesn't mean it's a bad league in terms of hockey, but it does mean it's no longer on the same level as the rest of the CHL, both in terms of quality of hockey and how they develop players. And for a league that's supposed to be for developing NHL players, that's a serious concern for the league's future. And to be honest, I don't really know what the fix is. It's not something you can change overnight, and it's part of the league's identity at this point, but it's just gone too far. Something has to give, whether it's coaching, structure, just a general mindset shift in management. But the Q needs to find a better balance, because right now it just feels like they've leaned too far into one extreme, and it's starting to cost them real credibility in the hockey world as a drafting and developing league. But what do you think the QMJHL can do to change their trajectory? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you all in the next one.